I don't think that they relate to it, but as I think about it more, I think there's a lot more in common with my mom than I previously thought, especially around this whole concept of unmuting and just cultural ancestral roles of women. My grandmothers were married at 11. So, and
Whoa.
I don't know what age rumor has it my great grandmothers were arranged at 5. So I don't know how far back it goes. So I know that it stops with me.
Hello, everybody. This is Eric Taylor, BigEAstrology. Welcome to episode 211 of my Knowledge is Love Astrology podcast with my amazing guest, Akashic Records Reader, quantum energy healer, sound healing practitioner, and so much more. We're going to unmute with Priya with my amazing guest, Miss Priua Sudarsanam. How are you today, my friend?
I am doing great, Eric. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for this.
This is a long time in the making, right?
Long time.
Priya and I know each other in a previous life here on Earth, but we'll save those stories for when she returns back on and gets to interact with everyone live. But I wanted to find out. That's a mouthful. And I take it back to my reference point because I have 10-year-old twins. Who was young Priya at 10 years old? And could you have ever imagined all that you do now and where your life is at this current point?
Absolutely not. When I think back to 10-year-old Priya, so we came to this country from the UK in 1982. So 1985, I was 10. I was growing up in front of MTV. I was there for every single music video premiere. Oh my gosh, it was just, I was in front of the TV and just excited. I thought I was going to be a nurse or a teacher. I am an Indian woman, so I just knew that I was going to be married and with a child or more than one child. And that's all I had in my path. So no, never did I think that I was going to be at this place at this time in my life.
So that's fascinating because in some ways you're giving me the feeling that you are sort of the black sheep of your family. Does your parents and, your siblings or your sibling, do they relate or understand to all that you are right now?
I think they're starting to understand. I don't think that they relate to it, but as I think about it more, I think there's a lot more in common with my mom than I previously thought, especially around this whole concept of unmuting and just cultural ancestral roles of women. My grandmothers were married at 11. So, and
Whoa.
I don't know what age rumor has it my great grandmothers were arranged at 5. So I don't know how far back it goes. So I know that it stops with me. But I also know that I am being myself with my family now. So they might be resonating with what I'm here to do now.
That's really deep. And when you said that arranged at 5, was there some Vedic astrology involved with that, you think?
Probably, yeah. I mean, even when I went to India years ago, I know that, and my grandparents are still living. We went to see a Vedic astrologer. They were going to use I think they wanted me marrying my first cousin. They had it done when I was born. So I'm glad I didn't follow that.
Oh my goodness. So to share with the audience, Priya is an amazing Gemini. Happy belated birthday with the Gemini ascendant and Mercury on the ascendant. But right now, you touched on that with the mother. So I wanted to kind of hit on your Capricorn moon in 8th house. So do you feel, in terms of some of your work and then, connecting this with your mother, the quantum energy and the spiritual intuition, the 8th house is ruling, right? Transformation and the thin veil between the 3D and 5D, emergencies, sudden events. but it's very spiritual and gets into the ancient wisdom, mystery schools, and occult knowledge. So for you, what was that first experience that you would kind of connect to that you thought of in terms of being in the spiritual business that would connect to that Capricorn moon in the 8th house?
Yeah. So back when I was in New York, I think I just happened upon, it was in 23rd Street, a Reiki school. And that was my first exposure to it. And I went and got the certification. I'm Reiki 2 practitioner too.
Okay.
And I dive right into it. So like I go to one class and then sign me up for the certification program.
Gemini style.
And so then that's when it started, but I didn't really connect to the spirituality of it. I just thought, oh, this is cool. And then probably around 2019, right before COVID, is when this whole diving into spirituality happened. It started with a head injury. I didn't die from the head injury, and I don't mean that facetiously, but I did hit it. I did hit it on the side of a bathtub, and I didn't go to the ER. I waited 3 days to go to the ER. I didn't die. So then it's COVID, and then it was like my life is staring me in my face. Plus, I'm dealing with all of the aftermath of this head injury, and it was like spirituality was just thrown at me. So that's where and then plus everybody was offering free webinars, free courses on Facebook and all kinds of social media. Then I just was a sponge. It was like, it was put there for me to soak it in. So I would say probably, it coincided with the head injury and COVID.
That's amazing. And I'm so sorry to hear about that. But, the astrology nerd in me has to connect it to that Capricorn moon in the 8th house, because that is emergencies and sudden events. And the moon is your physical body. So that kind of being like the leaping board or the springboard or the impetus to get you into really the spiritual business, that's very literal. For like the astrologers, like that's really heavy and deep. So now I know, in another life, but still continuous now, that you are an amazing and brilliant and extremely well-trained and naturally gifted as a speech pathologist. Is this kind of your connection to Unmute with Priya? And kind of explain that for the audience, what all Unmute with Priya really means to you and your service.
Absolutely. So, as I said, 2020 was when I started this journey. It started with quantum flow, and then I started quantum healing, and then I was in Akashic Records. All at once. I was just 10 different courses. I was so excited because I had Trello and I could see all the different courses, and I was like moving it through my task manager every day, and then here I'm thinking, okay, I just got this quantum healing certification. Now what? Am I a quantum healer? Then I get the sound healing certification. Now what? Am I a sound healer? And then I was just like, what do I do now? It's almost like I learned too much. And then to enter into this year, I had some pretty amazing coaching probably at the beginning of the year. And as I was just talking, and it was just this stream of consciousness, I realized that it comes full circle to why I went into speech therapy to begin with. And it's to help people unmute. I can trace my through line back to when I was 6, and it was an innocent thing. My family has their issues, but an uncle told me to shut up. It was for something super innocent. And he's like, shut up. And from that moment on, my subconscious created a pattern that it's not safe to speak. You need to be quiet. And then yet as an adult, I am helping children to unmute, to speak up. I never really had that word unmute in my vocabulary until I worked with this coach. And then it made sense that everything that I had learned, all the certifications are my toolbox. And what I'm here to do is help people unmute. Now, it could be verbally, it could be physically, blockages, it could be creatively, it could be in any way that the person is feeling that they're muted. And that's my gift, is helping people like really explore that and unmute.
Wow, that's so heavy. And just to think, right, the 6-year-old Priya from her uncle, who I'm sure you probably loved or idolized. And that's what happens, right? So often in our lives as kids, we can mentally go back to the time travel, right? It's like teleportation to these moments, to these different experiences. And it could just be a verbal thing. And unfortunately, as you and I both know, working with many clients, it can be emotional, physical, some sort of abuse. But there's definitely that clear something that we can go back, that we kind of have to go back and heal and transmute. Now, I want to brag on you a little bit because that Gemini Sun and Mercury on the ascendant, I feel that that's something that I've seen play out in terms of knowing you personally, in terms of your gifts, skills, and talents, right? Mercury is the messenger and it's at home in Gemini. And, I have to share with the audience, and we'll talk about it more, like I said, when Priya returns, in the fall to come on live with you guys. But you're not just a good speech pathologist, right? And I mention this sometimes with, for example, I have an acupuncturist, and I've been to many in my life, chiropractors, all that stuff, right? But you know the difference when someone is born to do it and it's like a calling and they are a real healer, right? And that's how my acupuncturist is. Well, that's you, because I've seen you in action. So like I can put the stamp of approval because no, seriously. And it's like, the way that you would work with children and students in terms of getting them to literally unmute and speak. And we're talking about severely multiple disabled children and with a myriad of different disabilities. And Priya would go in like a lyrical surgeon. And I know a lot of it is your heart, but I think it's also your gift. How did you, I want to know, and to share with the audience mentally, how did you process this, right? Because you can go to school and study to be a speech pathologist, and we both worked with many. But with you, it was very intuitive. Did you feel that at the time? Or like explain like how it played out for you mentally in terms of how you attacked working and help. I don't want to say attack, but like how you entered working with an individual, child or adult.
I don't think I really understood intuition until this, when I talk about 2020 and 2019 and just, I don't really think I understood it. All I know is I went to grad school and I was like, none of this resonates with me. I don't get any of this. How can you, if you're working with a child and trying to help them communicate, how can you do trials? How can you take this data? I never understood it. So I now in retrospect, when I would work with these children, especially at the school that we worked at together, it was, I feel like I was almost doing it secretly. It was like, all right, we're going to get talking, but I'm not going to use what I learned in grad school. We're going to use the Priya method, but don't tell anybody. And it's like, and it always worked, but I wasn't conscious of it until recently. It's so wild. It's, and I mean, yeah, I just did it. I just
So it was
did it.
really natural to you. It was like you were born, and see, and that's what it is. It is a calling, and you were born to do it. You were literally, the Mercury on the ascendant, you're the messenger. And the way that you can dispense language and then in turn inspire others to find their voice, right? And obviously it was with those special need kids, but now how do you feel tapped in with all the intuition and then all this other new knowledge and that you've ingested and taken? How do you feel that you help in the multitude of ways of helping your different clients unmute?
Oh my gosh, it feels amazing now, because now I've tapped in and now I have the intuition piece, that's connected. I can create a certification program to then help other speech therapists who are really feeling that it's not aligned to them. But I feel like the minute that I connect with somebody, let's say that you are a client and you're talking about where you're feeling muted in your life or where you're feeling stuck. So that I can tap into energetically where that is. And I can dig and discover. And I have the tools to figure out, okay, what do we need to do to move through this? And where do you want to be? And how can we get there? And so that I feel is my strength now, is that, and I'm not putting therapists and out of a job. I feel like there's definitely a place for them. I had therapy too, and it was so beneficial. But I feel like we've got a way of shifting it rapidly so that somebody doesn't have to sit in the trauma for years. Somebody doesn't have to keep reliving it. There's a way to diffuse the bomb, essentially. How I see it is, you've got the charge and you've got charging cables and you've got that thing within you that is creating this turmoil, and we just take the chargers off of it. So that situation actually becomes an integrated part of yourself rather than this charge thing that gets triggered every so often when the opportunity arises. You know what I mean?
That's wow. That really sparked so much in my brain, and I'm just like, wow. So tell me about, because I'm curious, and I think it's something that I've met and worked with and had an Akashic Records reading. And it was wonderful. But tell me your exploration, right? And it does connect back to the Bible, to the Book of Life. But how do you use the Akashic Records to help people in this life? Do you only look at past lives here? Do you also look at here and connect to the galactic? Or do you just kind of let the information intuitively or naturally pour out to the individual in terms of what they specifically need? Explain all that in terms of how you use that modality to work with your clients.
Yeah, so I can definitely access the records for lives, for past lives. I mean, lives here on Earth, as well as galactic lifetimes, and also access the records where there's a karma attached, and actually disconnect that karma. So it's about, learning the lesson from it. What is the situation that there's karma attached to, and really dissolving it. It's a sacred place. As you're talking about it, I see it in my mind, and there's some real hygiene of accessing the Akashic Records that I definitely take seriously. So when I'm with a client and we're exploring that together, it shows me based on what the client's need is. Let's say my client's saying, I'm having this issue with this person at work, and this thing keeps coming up. This pattern keeps reoccurring every job that I go to. We'll go exploring in the Akashic Records. I use muscle testing or kinesiology to see how many records there might be actually lighting up for me. And we'll go through each of those. And now if there's karma attached, then we'll explore that. That whole process can take anywhere from 60 minutes to 90 minutes just to go through that. Yeah. And so depending on the client's needs, that's how we'll explore it. And then, of course, using that 12th dimensional field to really go into the quantum and light codes, because right above that is source, and really just connecting to all the things that we're wanting in our lifetime now and bringing that down in the unity consciousness. And yeah, so it's an amazing place to explore. It took me a while to learn how to explore it, because every time I went up there, I fell asleep. The frequency was so intense that I was passed out on my carpet. Yeah.
That's deep. I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Do you feel in some ways the education and the experience as a speech pathologist, how do you feel that kind of helps you in terms of working in the Akashic Records and then, with your clients? Is there a connection you've noticed, or is it just,
So I haven't really made a connection there. I'm sure that if we went exploring, as I venture into this new place of unmuting, helping others to unmute, that we could find definitely records that relate to where maybe the person muted themselves or somebody else muted them, or maybe they were the ones who muted others and there's karma. So I feel like there's a connection that we can definitely explore. Also, as I reflect on it and you're asking me now, I'm thinking maybe I was accessing this when I was working with the children and I didn't even know it. I don't feel like all of a sudden I just learned it and now it's there. It's had to have been brought into my consciousness, but it was always there. And maybe, I'm thinking as I talk about this with you,
that's kind of deep.
It's really deep.
And it's so funny because, like I said, I want to save this for later, but one thing that kind of came to me, a download that I received, is that, Uranus has been in your 12th house since 2018 in Taurus. And it's really speaking to Taurus rules the throat chakra, and the 12th house taps in, right, to the spiritual realm, the subconscious and unconscious mind. And so do you find that now, how has like your dream life been? And do you also feel that now you're also not just with the unmuting with Priya, but that you're also helping people to really value their own self and self-love and gifts and to increase their self-worth? Is that something that you're kind of seeing as you're working with people?
Absolutely. I feel like when they don't know, I mean, I have a friend, a really good friend, and she didn't know she was muted until she was talking to me. And so I get texts emails from her saying, oh my gosh, I've been muted. I'm actually really angry. I woke up thinking about this. So I feel like I reflect back to people.
Yeah.
What may be going on in them. And then as I talk about what I do, it's almost like how all those people were talking to me during COVID and I was taking their trainings. It's that I am connecting with people and speaking their language. So I do feel that, I'm reflecting to people who they really are. And I see them for who they are, and I see how amazing people are, and I want to show them how amazing they are. So yeah, I think
the collective needs that more, right?
Yeah. I definitely, as I work through all of this, the 4 years of work, 2019, that's a long time. And now that I think about it, we're in 2024. I'm like, holy moly, that was a long time. and I just working through all of my resistance, all my pain and hurts, and just learning to accept people, not becoming resentful, letting go of anger, and it's just, that has allowed me to enter this different space of just having so much capacity to help others. That's
wonderful. Yeah. That's beautiful. So honey, because I really want to get into understanding some of the quantum energy work and healing that you do. But before that, share with the audience, some of the best ways to connect with you if they want to, book on your website. And then also, to follow your social media, and it'll be down in the description below. But like, how do people book with you, and what's the process?
Absolutely. So my Instagram is unmute_with_Priya, unmute with Priya. I have a closed Facebook group where I'm starting to do lives in there, and that's where you'll get access to some pretty cool sound healing, breathwork experiences, and more. And that closed group is called Unmute with Priya. Let's make it simple. I have a YouTube channel, Unmute with Priya, and then also you'll see in the link below, there's an offer that I have available where you can have access to a masterclass that I did where I talk about unmuting, some steps people can take towards doing it on their own, ways that we get in our own way, and ways to move through that, and just some first steps. And if people book through that, you get access to a 5-minute reset series. You can put that into your cart, and you can also have a consult with me. Normally, my consults are significantly discounted in there, so you'll be able to move through that in the links as well. So that's available for purchase, and yeah.
That's wonderful. And what's the website?
And my website is PriaSudarsanam.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
I
And I
purchased
love the
Unmute with
whole.
Priya too, domain as well. So that will be probably integrated at
Well,
some
so, and I love the whole unmute with Priya because it's just, you know what I mean? It's easy for everybody to find you and stuff. And you guys make sure you go subscribe to her YouTube channel. And, one day maybe I'll be a guest on her show when she,
Absolutely.
gets doing her podcast and stuff like that. So, um, let's explore this quantum energy work that you do. Like, take me, like, hold my hand and guide me through that. Like, what do you actually do, and is this something that you only do live, or can people book this with you like over Zoom and things like that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It can be done virtually. It's actually pretty powerful virtually, because time and space is, we know about time and space. I'm preaching to the choir here. So once we open up the container and I have permission to access the field, then there's so much that can be done. So if you were to book a session with me for quantum healing, often the clients who book those sessions feel like, no, there's a block. They just don't know how to remove it. They feel like it's something there, and I feel like it's been there their whole life and they're done. And that's been the common thread with the quantum healing. And the tools are from the people that I learned it from, they're shamanic in nature. So we use light language. That's a whole other speech therapy, light language conversation we can have.
I love that.
Yeah. So, and once we open up the container and I start digging and discovering what may be the issue, I can access more than 12 different tools within this quantum healing, as a quantum healer, that we can use to move those distortions or things in the energy field or things outside of our energy field that we're not even aware of. It can even go into an exploration in the Akashic Records. It's open. And I think that as I do this more, I'm also embodying my own tools within, and I discover them as I'm doing the session because it's helping the client. And so some of the feedback, like I said, rewind a little bit, is the galactic light language. I think that talking with people, it's very similar to tongues, but it's coded light language that we can use to remove the distortions, and it usually comes through as a download. Soul blueprint reset, that's one of the tools I can use. It's a pretty wild tool that we can just really trace back to the age when the distortion happened within their field.
Wait, hold on, pause when you say that, because that's kind of deep. I want to understand that a little bit more. So 6-year-old Priya.
Yep.
So you would go back, and ironically 6-year-old Eric, right? My father was murdered when I was 6 years old. So you would go back and kind of guide me through a conversation through my higher self so that I can converse and talk to 6-year-old Eric? Or
that's actually one of the tools too. And that's an inner child healing where we do time travel and heal that. And with any of these tools, sometimes it's gone back because the client is tapping into their intuition too. With the Soul Blueprint Reset tool, I won't go too deeply into it just for confidentiality's sake.
Right.
I can tap into an age at when the rupture happened. And sometimes for some clients, it's happened at 6 months that I was able to, or even in utero. And then once we start just digging and discovering even more, they'll tell me something about what was going on with mom when mom was pregnant with them. And then the inner child healing, we get to do time travel too. And usually the client is able to intuitively connect to the age at which that rupture happened too. So,
but that's not a conscious thought for them, right? That's more in the unconscious or subconscious?
It's not a conscious thought whatsoever. No.
Okay.
And not even for me.
I figured it would have to be, because, consciously, most of us, I'd probably say 99.8%, don't remember, in the womb, right? In the stomach, in vitro, right? But so that's really powerful. So you've experienced that with a client before?
I've experienced that with a handful of clients, and they said that it was more powerful than any tool that they've ever had or any kind of healing work that they've ever experienced.
And this is the soul blueprint, right?
And this is a tool that's within the quantum healing. Yeah. That's just one of the modalities. There's, like I said, there's 12 plus modalities, and I feel like I'm adding to it with my own toolbox as I do it more. It's yeah.
And this is so great because for me, when we reconnected and, we both kind of like saw each other in our new areas of life, it was just like, yes, like it was like a huge yes. And like, wow, of course we're both here doing this, that, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like, I don't think either of us would be surprised, but at the same time, it's so heartwarming and so fascinating, right? Because, for Priya and I, we were like literally in the trenches, and you guys all know being in school buildings can be very low vibrational and all these rules and regulations. But I know, can't speak for everyone, but I know for Priya and I, we were literally just there for the kids.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where a lot of your unmute with Priya just intuitively and magically happened. And so, do you find now, after you work with an adult, that have you experienced where they have thought about saying, I'd like you to work with my young son or daughter, or working with teenagers? Have you worked with children or young adults at all?
I wouldn't say children. I haven't seen since COVID. I mean, this coincided with COVID as well. I hit major burnout just because, as a speech therapist, when you talk about the school systems, and that's where I always worked. I was a robot. I was a speech therapy machine, and it's a high need profession. So you're used to your
hours. And I know you worked after school as well, right?
Oh, I worked. It was unreal. So I hit a wall. So I do have a couple of private clients, children, but I don't use these tools with them just because permission, and they don't know what's going on in the as well. But I do use, I have a hands-on, I'm a cranial sacral practitioner. Add that to the list.
Really? We had that done on our son, on my 15-year-old, and it shifted his digestive tract because, he would get sick after having the breast milk. In the first 6 months of his life, him and my wife, they like never slept, and it was like torture. And so we did just two sessions of it, totally worked. And oh God, if you do that is something that can be the greatest gift for a mother and a newborn, because that happens quite often. And a lot of times people don't know where to go.
No. And
they just suffer. And that also helps to lead to what? The postpartum. So that is, wow. That could be a really big, that's powerful.
And that's why I can't work in the school. I can't work in any system anymore, because I'm doing stuff out of intuition, and that working in a system is just too restrictive. You talk about, can I share a story?
Of course.
It's an amazing story. I started working privately with a mom, and her child had autism, 7 years old, and just very stereotypic behaviors. And we would do speech therapy, and it wasn't going anywhere. I was seeing her twice a week, and then I'm learning cranial sacral therapy. And so then I asked mom, I said, can I try this with her? I have to put my hands on her, but it's gentle. And that day, she was just off the wall, and she wasn't listening to me. And I just said, all right, I'm going to put my hands on you. And I did a whole maybe 30-minute session with her. And then she got up at the end of the session, looked at me, did almost like a nesty plunge face down into her bed. And I thought, oh crap, what just happened? Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. I'm a new practitioner. She got up, and then she just said, thank you, Priya. I feel much better now. And then that was it. And from that point on, I continued to see her for couple more years. Mom said, don't do the speech, do the hand thing, and so she had me coming, and that's all I did with her. And she was pretty close to typically functioning. And so I can't,
Wow.
that's the power of this work and unmuting.
That's such a blessing.
Yeah.
And that's transformative, not just for the child, but for the mother as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So what were her main issues?
So echolalic speech.
Okay.
Like I said, very stereotypical behaviors, repetitive actions, just, and then
So it was a huge shift then, really.
massive shift. Then after that, then the schools were wondering what, they didn't even recognize her because her behaviors had shifted so much.
So was she able to then sit still in the classroom and learn?
Still in the classroom. She started reading. She's excelling. Yeah.
That just touches my heart. Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Oh my gosh. And then, it made me time travel to think about some of the students back at Lavelle that I know that could have benefited from that as well. So back at the school we worked at. So that's really powerful. So tell me about your sound healing work that you do, because I love sound bowls, and my wife and I do, meditations with the kids. And I'm kind of a broken record, if you've ever seen my podcast, and I talk about it on my Astro Weather reports. Saturn is currently in Pisces until February 2026. And Saturn is the karmic teacher. It's no joke. And it really is asking us at this time to have spiritual discipline, some sort of practice, at least 15 to 30 minutes a day. Compassion, empathy, grace and mercy for ourselves, also for others, and then healthy boundaries. And so when I think about, Pisces being, creativity and imagination and spirituality, this is a great time for you to really work with people with that sound, healing stuff. So share with the audience, like, what you do, and then if you see any correlation or connection to that Saturn and Pisces kind of energy in terms of people, using something like this that you teach for their daily spiritual practice or cleansing.
Absolutely. You'll laugh because I had my first virtual session during COVID, and I was laying down and she was playing the sound bowls, and I was like, I don't know what that is. And next week I was signed up for her certification program. So it just took one session.
That's very Priya.
But the teacher that I had is amazing. I'm still in touch with her. And she showed me how to play bowls like that. It wasn't just a sound bowl.
Yeah.
Like you play it. Like showed me for different ailments how you could play, which bowls you would put around for different conditions. So even if it's injured knee, what bowls you would play. And so then I started from the get-go playing the bowls on myself. Literally this huge root chakra bowl. I put it on this is right after the head injury. So I was like, okay, my head hurts. Let's see if this helps. And I was putting it on my head and banging it. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I could just feel the vibration, the frequency, everything going through me. And so then I was just like, this is something I need to share. And it took a couple of years, but then I started doing group classes in my town here. And
Priya, science has now caught up to basically explain that the sound frequencies can heal tumors, cancer, all different types of, sicknesses, illnesses. So that's,
even at the classes, when I'll put the water in a small bowl and I just start going around the rim, and people can see if they're standing above, you see this shape. It's like a kaleidoscope. It's amazing. And I'm like, that's what's happening in your body, because we're mostly water. So
water.
Yep. So the sound healing is something that I offer once a month in my town. I can also do it virtually, and I have good sound equipment so that it's translated across the platform, even Zoom, with the actual sound, because it can definitely be piercing, especially metal bowls. I love the metal bowls. I resonate with them. I don't resonate with crystal, but I love crystal bowls. But something about metal.
Really? So what do you think it is? Because I've heard both. I think my bowl is crystal that I have, but we may have some smaller metal. So give me your thoughts on those.
I just feel like it's the resonance quality with my body, that it just resonates, the frequency of it. And I just like the feeling of metal. It grounds me. If you're in my house, I just have a lot of little trinkets here and there, and they're metal. They're like vintage brass, this and that. So I just connect with metal.
Okay, that's cool.
But I've never learned I could never learn an instrument. I would take piano classes, wouldn't last. I'd take drum, wouldn't last. I tried bass, standing bass, didn't last. And now I'm a one man show. Like you should, and maybe this is Gemini as well. You don't just get one sample. You have to get the whole kit and then buy this. So I have.
I would say that you stereotypically fit the bill 125% of being a Gemini. And I think some of that honestly is because of you being a Gemini rising and a Gemini sun. So kind of playing off that, how do you feel that plays out in terms of your writing and your kind of, there's a different, not regular communication, but more in your healing, your nonverbal communications?
I feel like as far as the sound healing goes,
the sound healing, or really with anything that you do in terms of whether it's the Reiki, the Akash, like anything, because like I said, obviously the Mercury, the Sun, and the Gemini rising, it's super curious, inquisitive, right? That's why you were like, oh, what's that? I want to take that. Oh, I want to study this, right? Bouncing all over. But then that Capricorn moon, that's your go-to for your following through and completing it, right? The Gemini is curious. The Capricorn takes it to the mountaintop. So it's your emotional mind and your intuition that is kind of like that gift that makes you grounded into physical reality, that now it's your career and your business, along with the Neptune and Sagittarius in your 7th house, which, may be a little challenging sometimes for relationships, but really is great in terms of you sharing your wisdom and beliefs and philosophies, in the marketplace, right? Being this spiritual healer that can work with Sagittarius is what? Like everybody, all cultures, ethnicities, beliefs, so I think that that's really beautiful, that you're in sync with your natal birth chart. So that's just fascinating to me.
Yeah. I feel, back to the communication question, I just feel like it's helped me to become such an amazing communicator. I'm not saying I'm amazing at it. It's just compared to before and how I communicated, it's just, I learned to be the observer, sit back, and learn to just the nonverbal communication too. So it's helped me to communicate with others. One of my other job, I run a nonprofit that I founded in 2015, and compared to how I started it in 2015 to even the past couple of years, it's more of a place of how can I support you? Even with, there's a team of 12 and let's have mission time together and let's share a meal together. It's about creating a healthy space and not any kind of space where I think even in work situations we can be in that are toxic. I feel like with the communication, I have a major trigger to any kind of toxicity. It's just like I see toxic and it's like, oh, I gotta go. It's like, oh God. So,
I love that.
Yeah.
So do you feel like when you mention that, right? Because that immediately makes me jump to your Jupiter Aries in the 11th house, because do you find that you are that motivating glue when you are working with groups or in the nonprofit? Do you feel like if you really think about it in yourself, like, do you find that you are kind of like that? I'm not saying it's all about you, but I'm saying that you're kind of like that initiator or that spark plug.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's that Jupiter in Aries. That's great.
Absolutely. I think takes people aback that I'm just like, oh my gosh, she's just going to do it. And I think there's my astrological chart that plays into that. And also I'm from the East Coast. Like East Coast, you get things done 2 weeks ago. You don't wait. So, and I mean,
and you're right. It's such a difference, because I find in the West Coast, there is this natural kind of hurry up and wait, but like this lack of hustle. Like we just jump in and grind. I remember when I first moved to Arizona, trying to get bids for like work, just even on, doing things in the home. Sometimes you couldn't even get somebody, to like call you back, and like you realize I'm trying to give you money. You know what I mean? And like in New York, it's like you would have had the estimate like that same day. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So that's so true, and I think that there is that difference, and it's just different, right? Because us East Coasters, we can learn to kind of relax and lay back a little bit, too. So, I'm passing no judgment on anybody. I love the West Coast, the East Coast. I love the whole world, but I think that you're really smart to point that out. So I want to find out, do you have like group programs, and do you do one-on-one? Like how do you?
So if you join my Facebook group, that's where we can do group work together. And I will be holding more sound healing breathwork sessions as a group. And you'll learn more about that.
Because I came to one and it was beautiful. That was was that a I think it was a meditation. And
that was a meditation / training. So it was more just, at that time I was starting out and I was calling it Flow with Priya. And it was just about, I hadn't really unlocked. I hadn't unlocked my unmute message yet. So, and then it went into breath work. But there's potential for group sessions as well as one-on-one. One-on-one is epic, if you ask me. Not just because it's me, it's just because it's really transformative, and you really can get to, removing those areas of density, removing the things that are stopping you, really moving through, diffusing the bomb and traumas that are within you. That's where I feel like the breath and the sound help to just kind of bring it to the surface. It's almost like it's a boiling water. It brings it to the surface, it boils off, and then you're just left with calm water afterwards. And then, at this point where I am now, I can actually talk about those traumas. I can talk about the things that happen. It almost feels like, did it really happen? Because I'm talking about it without losing it. And it's because it's an integrated part of me. So working with me one-on-one is the best way to just become whole and integrate all those parts, not dismiss any of them.
That's wonderful. So now, we gotta touch the third rail for a second, the New York style, right? So we're in 2024, Universal 8 year. I think back, starting January, I mean, it only took to like January 19th to be like, oh my God, 2024 is like crazy. Like I remember like whoa, all this has happened in 19 days. So it's been a wild year, right? There's been a lot of the electromagnetic blast with the solar flares to Gaia, Mother Earth. We're really shifting from the 3D to the 5D. What are you seeing and feeling energetically for the collective through the Akash, through your work, in terms of what can the audience and individuals expect for the rest of 2024, and how, what's the best way for people to integrate all these shifts to our bodies and our DNA and the planet itself at this time?
Yeah, I just feel like constructs are crumbling. So, I mean, for me, I see it almost like scaffolding around us, and it's literally just dissolving, breaking off one by one, and also what I'm noticing, what's happening is that you're able to coexist with people who are remaining in the 3D. And it's that sticker that people used to have on their on their car, coexist. It's like we can coexist, like and disconnecting from the things that are going to create chaos within us. And so I feel like that's all happening simultaneously within this year, especially with what's going on politically, what's going on, just how people are trying to heal themselves, to the conversations around water, the conversations around food, everything, and what we're putting into our body, how to detox, and then all these different modalities that are coming out that are about decalcifying your pineal gland, that are about activating your third eye. And it's just the people who are here to do that work and to keep rising are going to do that. And the ones that aren't, it's okay. We can still support them. Before, I was probably in a place where you need to come too. You need to do it too. It's like, no, if I say it, you have to do it. And now it's like, it's okay. It's all right.
Because we're all at different levels in Earth School, and there's no judgment, right? Where you and I could be 10th, 11th, 12th grade. We may have friends and family that are in like kindergarten, first, second. And I also tell people that none of us are a finished book. You may have a friend that's like totally caught up in watching the news and reading the newspaper every day and the Matrix and believing all the stories. And then boom, in 3 months they awaken, and then all of a sudden they are just like lit on fire and could even excel past someone who's been awakened for 10, 15
Absolutely.
years. So we have to hold that space. Right. And I tell people, don't be spiritually arrogant, because that serves nobody. And, we don't need division. We need the compassion and empathy, because let's be honest, we all know there's going to be a lot of people, and I've been saying this for a while, but you're seeing it, that are starting to awaken now and will experience it the next 3 to 6 months. And especially when Pluto goes back into Capricorn from September 1st to November 19th. And we've got to be ready and willing to hold space, because it can be extremely jarring and shocking, right? When, they kind of like the lights turn on and like, what? Like,
absolutely. And I feel like, give the gift of being you, because, my family is not really on this plane doing the work that I'm doing, but I see the benefits of me just showing up as myself and doing the work. And I don't have to talk about it either.
Yeah.
Like, they don't need to understand it. It's okay. But I see how it's healing them. I see how it's healing generations. My grandmother's passed, but I feel like maybe it's healing her too. And generations past. So we just have to keep committing to doing the work. Signing up for more certification programs, and I'm going to sign up for yours.
That's beautiful. So let me ask you a quick question as we get ready to, wrap things up. How important are these guys?
Oh my goodness.
Beautiful crystals. And I tell people, right, listen, whether you're Muslim, Jewish, Christian, this is not a sin, right? Because this can't just be used for smart TVs, smartphones, cell phones, Teslas, right?
Right.
What have you found the benefits are when you work with or use crystals?
I have a house full of crystals. I mean, they're everywhere. I find that they just connect based on what the metaphysical properties of them are. I mean, it always resonates. If I go to a crystal shop in Sedona and I pick up a crystal, it's speaking to me, and it helps me in any situation that I'm in. So if I need more energy, I'm going to take some tiger iron to the gym, and if I need to ground, I connect to carnelian. And I also, it's about the color too. I resonate with the color. Right now I'm big into green, and green is just representing just expansion for me. So I feel like crystals, you can have such a personal relationship with them. Yes, there are the metaphysical properties of them, but they're also speaking to you in the way that it says, okay, pick me up right now. I put them in my water. I'll stir my coffee with them. Yeah.
Now, do you do that for drinking water, and also like if you're soaking and taking a bath with Epsom salt?
Absolutely.
You recommend that for people?
Yeah, absolutely. I think crystals can be used. They're here to be used. They're here for us to serve us, and so we can we can benefit from from the properties that they give us. So yeah, I definitely love drinking crystal water. This might be a Gemini thing. I don't just put one crystal in there. There's 20, but because I can't make up my mind which one I want.
Oh my God. That is so real and honest, and I love that. See, and that's what it's all about, right? The three highest frequencies: love, gratitude, and just be Priya, your true, authentic self. And that right there, 20 crystals in a. Hopefully, it's a big water bottle, not a little mug.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Oh my God, that's so wonderful. So, how do you help people with the broken heart that are really like, hey, Priya, my unmuting or my blockage is in terms of loving myself, but also wanting to have that life partner? You know, are there different things that you can do with the quantum, with the Akashic? Where and what do you find to be the most helpful or beneficial tools or modalities to help people on that love journey?
All of it. I mean, honestly, all of it. Yeah, as you asked me that, I'm tapping into which one, and it's all of it. I feel like the parallel process is what guides me because I've been through it. And you would know this. I mean, just it's been one broken heart after another, after another, after another. And now I'm in this place of like I am standing on my own 2 feet and I'm solid and ready for a good relationship and one that's going to light me up. And because I've gone through all of these relationships, now I can support somebody who's moving through it. And then it's not even just broken heart with a partner, just broken heart because of loss.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going through so much. People are, I just hear about,
I know.
yeah, one family member after another every week, just is where I'm hearing about it. And I feel like, it's taken for granted. You talk about holding space. Holding space is one of the biggest tools. Holding space in that heart energy is one of the biggest tools that we can offer somebody to help heal. And also not any kind of bypassing, not trying to like get to step 7 without moving through 1 through 6 first,
One day and one step at a time.
One day, one step at a time. And not trying to fix anything too. I think sitting with, I recently saw a post, a friend's post, and it's just being able to sit with the silence. Yes. I think offer silence. We don't have to fix it. Just letting somebody be on the other line or even on Zoom and crying is okay. And, just holding that space. So I feel like my own parallel process is what guides that healing.
That's beautiful. And that's, I think that we all need in different times and levels of our life that stillness and that mindfulness and quiet time, especially with all this technology. I find where I catch myself, I'll be quick to tell my kids to get off the iPad or the cell phone. And, I can see where as an adult, I have to do the same as well. Now for me, I make we all make the excuses to ourselves. Well, I'm doing it mostly for business, which is the case. But then sometimes you can find where after your business is done, you're still lingering. Mm-hmm. And that's what these apps do, right? Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, you can, get pulled in. And I think that we need to spend more time with the sun and solar energy. And so as we leave, I want you to share all your information again, but I want you to tap into how important it is for people to get that sunlight, that daylight, and for the Schumann residents, grounding and earthing and hugging trees and nature. How valuable is that for people?
Absolutely. You need it. It goes without saying. I'm barefoot all the time and constantly taking breaks, walking outside, just connecting. down into the center core of the earth. It's there. And you've got this source of nourishing, never ending, nurturing energy that's there to support you. You can just really allow it to fill you up, head to toe. And so whether it's just a couple of minutes of being outside barefoot, whether it's just a couple of minutes of being in nature, if you live in the city and don't have as much access, you get that one tree that's on the corner of 125th and Broadway and you hug it hard and then get on the bus and subway, so it's like they're just tapping into the frequency.
That's perfect and so beautiful. Oh, I just thought of one last thing. I can talk to you forever, but
I know.
So I find often that I have clients that it's hard for them and they don't know how to get started. And I always encourage them when it comes to having a spiritual practice and a routine, I tell them, do something. Right. Because sometimes they just feel overwhelmed. They don't know what to do. And I just throw out a myriad of different things you can do. Mm-hmm. But share with our audience, in closing, finally, where would you guide them in terms of, what to do, how to do it? And do you have any free services to just help people to start their spiritual routine, whether it's sound bowl, grounding, earthing, meditation, toning? What are your thoughts on that? And what advice and tips do you give to somebody who's like, I don't know what to do. Where should I go?
Yeah. And again, parallel process, because that's where I was after the head injury. And it was like everybody kept saying meditate and I couldn't sit still. I feel like you have to connect to something that you enjoy doing. And it doesn't necessarily have to be sitting still. Mine started with walking and just going for a walk. I feel like the best way to create something and create the habit out of it is connect it to something that you're already doing that you love doing. So maybe if you're having coffee, have the coffee outside and just sit in quiet. Maybe if it's before bed and you're used to watching TV, turn off the TV 30 minutes early and just go sit in bed for a few minutes. That's literally, I started that way and it wasn't 30 minutes. It was literally, oh my gosh, I think I've been sitting for 30 minutes and it was 2 minutes. It's like, it was, so you have to, I mean, it's like anything. I don't know if that's Gemini too, but it's like.
2 minutes is a lot for Gemini. That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's just connected to something you love doing already, but allow it to be something separate from technology. That's where I would start, and then we can start talking about breath work or sound healing. But with sound healing, you would have to have the recording. You would have your phone out. I would say connect to something where you can just be, still for just a second. And then from a second, go to 5 seconds and then 10 seconds.
And do you feel that it also is helpful when people, because you mentioned the walking, I know a lot of people love to go on hikes.
Yeah.
Go hiking. That's very.
Absolutely. I feel like you can have meditation in motion. It's active meditation.
Yeah.
You're moving while you're hiking, you're moving through thought patterns, you're moving through everything. And then you're at the top of the hill and you're just like, how did I get here? I mean, it's a complete process,
Wow. Yeah. That's so beautiful. Thank you, my friend. This has been so awesome and so amazing. And like I said, you guys, everything is down below in the description, but please share one more time the best ways to contact you and to book with you, and just for the audience to be able to unmute with Priya.
Absolutely. My socials are all the same. Unmute with Priya on Instagram, my private Facebook group, which is Unmute with Priya. There are some membership questions for that. And also my YouTube channel, where I'll start doing shorts and podcasts on there and interviewing people. And then you'll see my offer in the bottom, where you can have access to a 5-minute reset series, as well as a webinar. You can also reach out to me at Priua Sudarsanam.com. I do answer all my emails, and I connect with everybody that reaches out to me. So we can even have a conversation and go from there.
Wow. I love that in so many ways. And, it's just thank you for the work that you do. For me, I interview a lot of people. I work with so many different people. And I think the common theme and common thread that I think we're all kind of coming to since 2012 and since 2020 is that people are needing and wanting something new, different, and more.
Yeah.
And it's not to knock any old ways, old systems, but when you go through these ages of shifting through the Piscean age to now the age of Aquarius, it is bumpy. It is challenging and difficult. But I tell people, be optimistic, know that the sun's going to shine tomorrow. We may still go through some dark and tough times, but just connect from the heart chakra, and then from there everything else is going to work out and be okay. So thank you, Priya, for all your wealth of knowledge, your insight, your gifts, and for the future work that you're going to continue to do with the collective, and for joining me today on episode 211, Knowledge is Love Astrology Podcast.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.